In this video, we will be covering basic machine operation, programming verification, and technical training to successfully operate and maintain the whip topper 1.1 dispenser. At this time, we'll be referencing the unit's key parts and their locations on the whip topper 1.1. Located on the lower back panel of the unit will be the following: main power switch, 15 amp fuse, 7 amp fuse, exhaust vent, air intake vent, air filter, power cord. Now we'll be referencing the front of the whip topper 1.1 unit. As shown here is the door latches, right side and left side, drain tube. Next will be the touchscreen main control board, EiEiO dispense button, product cutoff assembly, LED lights that are located behind the Durotran. In the next series of items shown, we will be referencing all of the key components on the inside of the whip topper 1.1 dispenser's front door. To be able to access the inside of the whip topper 1.1 dispenser, you will need to unlatch the two plastic door latches that are located on the lower left and the lower right of the unit. Please note that the door itself is under pressure of gas shocks. This allows it to be supported in the open position while product is being loaded. Prior to unlatching the last door latch, please support the door with one hand and slowly allowing it to open to its fully extended position. Also located at the top of the body above the product box will be the main door switch. This feature is important in regards that the unit is not functional while the door is open, when used during product replacement and/or repairs. Located on the top of the inside door, you will see a decal with a visual quick product loading guide for reference when loading new product into the machine. One of the key parts that is being referenced now is the watertight temp probe that is mounted on the center of the inside door itself. This will be the temperature reading that will be displayed on the touchscreen referenced later in the video. Next, we will be covering the locations and functionality of the key parts that control the product dispense of the whip topper 1.1. First will be the solenoid that is located on the top right. This is where the whip topping product will flow into first after it is leaving the product bag located inside of the product box. The second part will be the pump head assembly for the whip topper 1.1. This is where the product will flow through the product hose into the pump head assembly, allowing the product to be pushed into the whip wafer. Next, the product hose will pass through the lower left solenoid and finally making its way through the dispense shield into your cup of your favorite beverage. At this time, we will be removing the metal access cover that is secured with two Phillips head screws located as shown here. Once removed, you will have full access to the parts to be referenced via the video. Next, we'll be removing the back panel, which includes 5 Phillips head screws to be removed. Once removed, you will need to disconnect the 2 wire connectors that are attached to the 7 amp fuse. At this time, we will be pointing out all of the key components of the inside of the whip topper 1.1. Component number 1 is the EiEiO ribbon cable, compressor relay and compressor thermal overload, which is located on the inside of the compressor component cover as shown here, starter capacitor, pump motor, solenoid, compressor assembly, relay board, condenser fan, access port for the compressor, condenser assembly, power supply assembly. Next, we will be covering the whip topper 1.1 touchscreen display operation and machine settings, starting with the main display that will be visible during the standard operation of the unit. Located on the center of the touchscreen display, you will notice one of the two display buttons that will activate the unit's dispense of the whip tapping product into the customer's cup. Located on the left of the touchscreen will be the temperature bar that will show the current temperature in Fahrenheit of the units when it is powered up and operational. The next item that is to be covered on the main display, which is located on the right-hand side of the unit, is the product level bar. This will show the current level of the product that is remaining inside of the product box of the Whip Topper 1.1. To gain access to the unit's settings, you will need to select the information button located at the bottom right of the touchscreen. Once selected, you'll be prompted to enter in a password. The sequence of the primary password will be the left icon once, center icon once, and the right icon once. Then select the check mark to enter into the first stage of the machine settings. The main menu will be displayed, allowing you to access multiple options. Product button. Once selected, you will see the reset icon on the top left. This will reset the level of the product inside of the machine settings. Also shown on this display will be the product life, bag size, and product type. You will also see the refresh button on the lower left. This is to be used when you're wanting to revert back from the previous display screen. This will allow you to properly set the proper date and time for the location and time zone of the unit. This will assist in keeping traceability of product expiration. Restore factory settings. This button is a quick option for resetting the unit back to factory default as programmed when the unit was built. Home button, located on the lower right of the touchscreen. Pushing this will allow you to revert back to the main dispense screen. Noted, never leave the machine settings open. Prime wafer. This is the manual button that can be used to prime the wafer for testing purposes. Normally this function is prompted automatically when the door is open and then shut when the new product is being changed out. Settings. Once selected, you will see the screen change to the settings menu. This will display the shot size that is programmed at the customer's required shot size for the product that is being used. On this screen, you will see on the top right a button for alarm menu. Once selected, you will see the set points for the alarm volume and alarm temperature. Tech menu. Only technicians should be allowed to enter this section of the machine settings. Once you select the tech menu icon, it will prompt you for a secondary password. This sequence will be the left icon once, middle icon twice, and the right icon 3 times. Then select the check mark. At this time, it will change the screen to show the technician menu on the display. Password. This option is for when the store chooses to change the password for the technician menu. Tech product menu. Once the product button is selected, it will show you the 3 options. Dispense history, located on the top left. Product reset confirmation, which gives you the option of an on or an off. And continuous dispense, which is always set to off as a default. If the product reset confirmation is set to on, this will prompt a new window to show up on the main screen once the door has been opened and closed, asking the question, did you replace the product? If you select the check icon, the unit will reset the product level bar located on the main screen and reset the 14-day product expiration period to be tracked within the machine settings. If you select the X icon, it would allow you to continue the normal operation of the Whip Topper 1.1 without resetting any of the product settings. Temperature. Once you have returned back to the main technician menu by hitting the back button located on the lower right, we will be selecting the temperature button located on the top right of the touchscreen. Once selected, you will see 3 settings options: temp high, temp low, temp offset. The settings that should be displayed at all times are temp high at 38 degrees Fahrenheit, temp low at 33 degrees Fahrenheit, and temp offset set at 0. Once you have returned back to the main technician menu, we will then select the time delay icon located on the lower left of the display. It will show 3 settings. Purge time. This will show how long the main rotor pump assembly will cycle in seconds. The compressor delay. This allows the machine to actually, once it's powered up, not to activate the actual compressor for 90 seconds. The cold box fan delay. This is in addition to the compressor delay that after the original 90 seconds of it being powered up, the compressor will activate, and then an additional 10 seconds after that, the cold box fan will activate. The next icon that you'll notice is the debug icon. Once you've returned back to the main technician menu by selecting the back button located on the lower left of the current screen, now we'll be selecting the debug icon. This tech debug screen will be displaying multiple items that will be very informative to technicians in regards to being able to test the LED lights, cooling system, and DC fan operation for failure analysis testing. This display will also show that the temp is within the correct operational range as shown by a green square. The comms icon, which will notify if all of the systems are communicating properly between each other, also shown as a green square. If it is showing a red square, this will mean that there is an issue with electronics and programming of the unit by losing connectivity between each other, allowing the unit not to operate properly. This can be resolved by verifying all the wires are properly connected to each other. Also listed at the bottom of the Tech Debug menu, you will see a series of numbers and letters. This is the current software version that is programmed into every unit. Also listed directly below that will be the program date and time, along with a secondary temperature reading. That is the reading of the temperature of the main capillary compressor line that is located on the inside of the left access cover. Next, we will be covering the final icon that is located on the lower right of the current menu, the defrost menu. Once selected, you will see one of two available defrost setting screens, which will have 3 time frames programmed into the software for the WhipTopper 1.1 unit. These presets are set as a default on all units and not recommended to be changed at any time. The unit is programmed to go into its defrost cycle 3 times a day, every 8 hours, which are at 3 a.m., 11 a.m., and 7 p.m. Defrost settings. This screen will show the 3 different time durations in minutes for each defrost cycle. These are all pre-programmed as a default on all units and are also not recommended to be changed or altered at any time. The purpose of these defrost times is to allow the compressor to be powered down for 50-minute durations, 3 times a day, to allow any ice accumulation that has been built up around the condenser coils that are located behind the foam backer panel on the back of each unit to defrost. The next section of our training will include technical troubleshooting. At this time, we'll be discussing the basic verification and repair of certain unit failures that can be resolved at the store level. Loss of power. We need to verify that the unit is plugged into a dedicated outlet. If this unit is not showing anything on the main screen and/or is blank, the unit will need to be powered down and unplugged from the wall outlet for no less than 5 minutes, and then powered back up. If the unit is still not responding properly, we will need to power down the unit and then remove the main touchscreen display that is secured to the front door with the 4 Phillips head screws. Once the last screw is being removed, make sure that the display is supported to keep the display from falling and possibly damage any main circuit board wiring harnesses that are attached. Unplug the red multi-wire connector located on the back of the circuit board and plugged back in. You may power up the unit and verify that the display is operating properly. If everything else is functioning properly, we can re-secure the screen assembly back to the front door. Notation here is that we need to make sure that all excess wires are secured into the main display housing prior to installing the 4 screws. The next section that we'll be covering is issues with the machine that is not dispensing properly. Verify that the door is closed properly. Also need to verify that the bag of product that is in the unit is not empty or low. If the unit is not properly reset when loading a new bag of WhipTopper product into the machine, the unit will not have accurate traceability of the level of the product in the bag. Next, we'll be discussing issues with the machine that has high temperature. The unit is set up to operate within the temperature range of 33 degrees Fahrenheit as a low temp set point and 38 degrees Fahrenheit on the high temp set point. If the unit exceeds 60 degrees, the unit software will activate a temp alarm error that will be visible on the display and activate an audible alarm that will beep until it is resolved. Make sure the unit's door sill is properly secured to the door housing as a primary verification. Also, if the unit is showing an excessive temperature reading on the door, for example, plus or minus 200 degrees, it's possible that the temperature probe itself will need to be replaced. Another issue with high temperature readings or low temperature readings is possibly that the settings are being altered on the unit software. At this time, we will need to restore the factory settings by selecting that icon that is located on the main menu. Pump head motor assembly and main motor assembly. If the pump head assembly is making a popping noise when cycling, we will need to have the main door open to make sure that the pump head housing is securely tightened with the 4 large Phillips head screws that are shown. Verify that the whip topper product hose is properly routed through the assembly without any kinks in the main line. This section of the training video will be walking you through the proper procedure and sequence for loading new product into the whip topper 1.1. First, we will need to remove the single bag of the whip topper product and a single whip wafer hose assembly from the store's cooler. This is recommended to have all of the product kept at the proper operating temperature of 33 degrees and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the whip topping product has been removed from its box, it will need to be shaken well prior to being installed into the unit. Now we will need to open up the main door, allowing you to remove the product box that is located in the top of the refrigerated section of the unit. Next, we will need to remove the primary plastic cover of the blue cap. Once the safety cap is removed, there is a small foil that will be pierced during the next step of instructions. Next, we will need to pinch off the product hose with the attached red clip. The next step will be inserting the large piercing part of the hose into the blue cap, for which the plastic part that is being inserted into the blue cap assembly will puncture the internal foil, allowing the product to flow into the hose assembly as shown here. Once inserted fully, we can go ahead and start to route the whip wafer hose through the solenoids and motor assembly in sequence. At this time, we will need to place the whip topping product into the product box. Make sure the blue cap is aligned with the opening in the bottom of the product box itself as shown here. Once completed, we can load the product box itself into the unit with the blue cap being located on the front right of the refrigerated section as shown. First, we will need to insert the hose through the top right solenoid by pressing in on the button that is located on the outside part of the solenoid assembly shown here. Once inserted fully and centered to the solenoid shaft, you can release the solenoid button itself. Second, we will need to insert the next section of the whip wafer hose and the air check valve by pressing the locking black tab shown here and inserting the hose, making sure that the air check valve is facing forward while being installed. Next, we will need to support the hose itself in your left hand as we manually rotate the rotor assembly with your right hand as the hose is being fed into the assembly itself. Next, duplicate the same steps as shown on the right side by opening the secondary motor assembly clamp on the left side of the unit and loading the final part of the large whip wafer hose into the pump assembly. The next step will be inserting the end of the whip wafer hose into the dispense shield shown here, again making sure that the plastic insert is fully seated. The final step will be inserting the smaller whip wafer hose assembly into the lower left solenoid. Once all the hoses are properly secured, we can at this time release the red clip used to pinch off the whip wafer hose. Close and secure the outer door and secure it with the 2 rubber clips. With the door being closed, the display will prompt you to answer the question shown below. Select the check mark and the machine will automatically reset the product level to 100% and then prompt you to prime the wafer by selecting the button shown here also. Once this is completed, the unit is ready to be used. If any further assistance with technical support and/or questions, feel free to contact EiEiO Incorporated Service Department at 1-800-513-4346. At that time, you'll need to select option 2 for the Service Department. Service Department is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.